Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. So we have a special episode today. We're going to get back to doing our vent sessions, part of the channel where we talk with fellow fans, friends of mine who follow other programs, other teams, and getting things off your chest. And I'm here with my good friend, Jim Johnson. We've been boys for a while. We talk about a lot of sports. He's a fellow Cowboys fan, fellow San Antonio Spurs fan. Someone from, the greater Austin area. And I just want to get your thoughts on Texas State and, you're an alum, you graduated 10 years ago now, and a lot of things going on with the athletic department, currently hiring a new football coach. And I just want to get into, you seem to have a presence on social media, and I just want you to kind of tell the people your background first off, and then let's get into this program.
Sure. So thanks for having me first of all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great to be able to speak out for Texas State. We don't have a lot of media channels out there talking about our school and our athletic department, so I appreciate that first and foremost. Yeah, so I went to Texas State from 2004 to 2008, right in the middle of the name change from Southwest Texas to Texas State. So that was obviously a big push. And then moving into the FCS transition in football to FBS, right? So that's obviously a hard transition historically. And then for me specifically, since I arrived in 2004 till current to date, I've been attending football games for better or worse, right? We've had some ups, we've had some downs, we've had some good times and bad times. So I've been there and I've seen a lot of different things, a lot of different coaches.
A lot of different coaches come through that program right off the bat. Tom Herman, who, guys that follow our UT part of this channel, other coaches on this staff, I think Craig Navar and Jason Washington.
Yeah, so Navar is at Kentucky now, but he was with Texas for a minute. Jason Washington, DB coach, sent a couple of our players to the league. Definitely has a great reputation. He was a part of Coach Bailiff's staff in 2005 when the Texas Longhorns were making a championship run. So was Texas State at the time. It was obviously overshadowed by Texas Longhorns. But they, lost in the semifinals and on a terrible.
What was that like being because you were a junior or would have been like a sophomore or what, right?
Yeah, technically I was a sophomore.
Yeah, but what was that like just real quick in terms of, because that was one of the highs, right?
Yeah, I mean, this was before we expanded our stadium. The stadium was a glorified high school stadium. Matter of fact, San Marcos Rattlers played there on a regular basis, and in some cases got more attendance than we did.
Sure.
It was pretty sad. But that being said, 2004, not great. Nobody there. Few people in the stands. 2005, we have a great season. We had a great dual threat quarterback at the time. Barrett Neely got a lot of publicity. We were electric on offense, running all over the place, dual threat everywhere, just like Vince Young, ironically. It's a very similar offense. And the place was full. When we got to the playoffs, it was full. The tailgating atmosphere was, frankly, the university didn't know how to handle tailgating because nobody had ever done it. So it was very Wild Wild West from a tailgating perspective. They tightened the reins on that, up to now. But man, it was an electric atmosphere. Now it was a terrible stadium at the time because we had a track field still. There was a track going around our football field. So it was very, very, not up to par with even Texas high school football fields that we see here in Texas. So that was the beginning of that move to FBS and all of the money just getting dumped into facilities. Yeah.
So some of the things that we've talked about, because Jim called me up, before the head coach and the hiring after the Withers thing, you called me up and you were just livid with this program at this point. And I wanted you to start with a positive anecdote, because it's like, this is where I saw things kind of on the uptick. But where are we today?
Sure. So, since 2004, 2005, Dr. Larry Teis has been our athletic director. And frankly, to a certain degree, he's done some positive things, right? He realized that our facilities were subpar, especially for a school that wanted to go to the FBS level in football. So there was a lot of money spent in facilities. And frankly, we've got a great football stadium now. We've got, as of this year, we have upgraded video boards, which is great. We've got a brand new basketball stadium in terms of renovation that also hosts the commencement ceremonies. Brand new baseball, softball fields that are all turf, just like Texas. Upgraded. Our baseball fields didn't have visitor bathrooms for a long time, which was interesting. We would beat Rice, and then all of a sudden the old man would walk in and be like, "Hey, this is kind of awkward, right?" For the public restroom to house our visiting team, but. Yeah, so a lot of great improvements in terms of spending the donor money in a positive way, right? That's the high level, right? We had an FCS to FBS transition. Obviously challenging. I don't think anybody denies that, to know what you need to do there. So in that perspective, we've done really well.
Sure.
In terms of the alumni support, that's where we've seen a lot of, the marketing hasn't been great. In terms of, our record in terms of across the sports, it hasn't been great.
Sure. And performance and marketing, some of that stuff goes hand in hand. People, in terms of the alum, current students, if things aren't electric, like you said, in 04, where we were kind of down, people aren't showing up. And some of that is just the culture.
Yep.
But I think some of your frustration, you can definitely talk about this, is what are we doing to reach out to our alum and folks in this greater Austin area, just locally?
Yep.
Just to get more support for the program, get people to get the athletic director out there as an ambassador of our community, showing, and it seems to me like he's almost like a recluse. Am I off on that?
You're pretty spot on with that. And let's start there, right? So Dr. Larry Teis, when you're an FCS institution, you can get away with just making the right hire from a coaching perspective and let the wins take care of itself.
The wins, yeah.
And that's the mindset of this administration, right? Denise Trump, the president of the university, and almost coddles to a certain degree Larry Teis, is how we see it. Obviously, that's up for debate. There is no local media from an Austin, San Antonio perspective really being replied to from this administration. So if somebody from the Austin area wants to do an interview about the current state of Texas State, they just don't reply. And that's really bad when you're a little brother to UT, if you will, 30 minutes down the road, and you have a demand for the media wanting to talk to your program, and you don't talk to them for whatever reason. That's just bad for business, right? Like if I'm in Austin and I'm covering the Longhorns, I'm just going to focus on the Longhorns, because if you don't want to talk to me, I don't want to talk to you either. That's kind of how it works. So,
and what's crazy too is, like, amongst our friends, we have friends who are UT fans, but they're Texas State graduates, right? Mm-hmm. And there's probably people that follow this channel who are Texas State alum, but they've been turned off by the lack of attention by this athletic department, and just not, outside of development of the facilities, not having that smooth transition from FCS to FBS and feeling like a real FBS D1 program.
Right. And the data, let's just go with the data. You got 190,000 living alum, and you got 80 to 90,000 that live from the Georgetown to San Antonio area. So you have a pool of alumni here that are either supporting another team or just have no passion for the athletic department. And then from my perspective, I take a step back and say, what's driving that, right? Well, I think it's a couple things. Number one, you got a new name, 10 years old now, whatever, almost 15 years old now. And you can't find this brand T-shirt outside of San Marcos, right? You can get it out online on, outlet
That's
stores.
crazy to me, because y'all are not the only, like, we find A&M gear around.
And that's quite a bit further away
than
San Marcos is. And we're not even talking about a FCS school anymore. I can understand if, a major retailer, say Academy, for example, wants to carry the brands that sell. Let's carry Texas. Let's carry A&M. Let's even carry Tech. I get that piece of it. What I don't get is Texas State has a actual department within Round Rock, okay? So the North Austin area. And they have a campus on Round Rock. Yeah. And I reached out to them recently because I was looking to get some apparel. And I said, hey, do you guys have a, stand with apparel inside the building? Anything, right? I don't even need a freestanding area, just a kiosk, right? Sure. Nothing. And to me, that's just like, the thing that's troublesome is Larry Teis is supposedly, he hangs his hat, I should say, on marketing. That's supposedly his thing. He came from TCU.
Is that his background? Or because when you say he hangs his hat on marketing, but he doesn't do any marketing, like, I'm confused.
I'm not sure if he's a marketing major or anything like that, but I can tell you that when he came from TCU, that was his strength, supposedly, right?
Sure.
Was this guy was going to build a brand
put in that position
and market it well, right? Sure. So you have, to recap, you have a lot of alumni in the area. You have no way of buying your own school's apparel within, the San Marcos to maybe New Braunfels area, because once you get into Austin, you're starting to fight that UT crowd. And then on top of that, you don't have, apparel in your own campus's location, wherein we're not even talking about the alumni from the San Marcos area. We're talking about the alumni now, the nursing program, which is a great program in the area with St. David's. You can't buy anything for the nursing program and all that there. That's a huge miss in my eyes and a branding move. And so that's the first miss, right? Students don't know when the game is. Now I get it. Like, you could go online and easily see when the game was if you cared that much. But like, we're not out in the campus talking.
So let's talk about the students,
because
you guys are, depending, what are you, the fifth largest university?
Fifth largest university in Texas.
In Texas, with 40,000.
It's over 40,000 enrollment. And the thing is we're probably third in Texas. It's Houston and North Texas ahead of us, and they're really counting those satellite campuses as a part of that. So let's call them third in the state when you really think about it, which is pretty
beautiful campus.
Right.
I was down there recently to actually chat with some of the students down there for a work event, and I was it's mind-boggling to me how there's not like that, just the basic element of excitement for the games, when the games are, whether you're good or bad. You recently told me, I think the last home game, 300. I mean, you eyeballed it. Now I suck at eyeballing, people. Anything over 50 people, it could be 100 people, it could be 5,000 people. I don't know. But you said including, like, with the band included.
I mean, yeah. Okay. So, anybody that's listening to this that was at the game, comment, feel free to
please
put
chime in
your 2 cents on this. Yes. They're including the band. I would say 300 people, right? Like, I mean, there was nobody in the stands. I think I counted 4 students. 4 students out of a 40,000 enrolled campus.
How big is the stadium?
It holds about 30,000.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And not only that, but it's a nationally televised game on ESPN, mine's ESPN Plus. But that being said, it's
still broadcast, right?
So, and then on top of that, we had, we just fired Everett Withers. So I get it, like, probably not a lot of excitement for a 3-9 team going into their last, or 3-10 team, 3-11 team. I don't know. It was a lot of losses at that point going into the last game of the season. I can understand why they wouldn't want to go. It's not a great product at the moment, right? So, but that being said, we have, this many alumni in the area, this many students on our campus. It's free to get in on top of that. So it's really just a matter of getting them out of that tailgate, because the tailgate's full, and getting them into the stadium. Now maybe a good product on the field brings that in, and I think it will, right? Like, I think 05 proved that. But how do you build something sustainable that goes through the ebbs and flows of good years and bad years? Because every program has a bad year. So how do you keep people in the stands to support the football team and the seniors and all these kids that deserve it, frankly, for representing the university right? How do you keep that passion in the fan base? And I think it starts with the alumni, because at the end of the day, a student's just going to do whatever they got to do. They got to go to work. They got to do things, right? So to me, it starts with the alumni. And I don't expect the alumni to unapologetically support this athletic administration when the president and the athletic department are basically saying, give me your money and we care nothing.
I would also love to know what the plan is by this athletic department for student outreach, because that was something that we struggled with at Texas before Chris Del Conte came in as our current athletic director. When we had Steve Patterson, who was one of the worst ADs, in D1 that we've seen in a while, and we even transitioning into Mike Perrin, who did a good job stabilizing things. The biggest thing you saw in terms of now was the presence amongst the students, student outreach. Tom Herman has a lot to do with that as well, and I give him a lot of credit because they came in and honed in on that. It sounds to me, especially with the athletic director not being present, not being visible on social media. In 2018, I don't understand how you don't have a social media presence in any type of business, any type of atmosphere where you're 40,000 students again, right? So just what if there is any type of plan that you've seen for student outreach? Because people are so quick to blame the students all the time. And that was happening at UT. But they also countered, and I remember they put out an article in the Statesman and said, this isn't on us. You guys are making us jump through hoops to get to games, tailgating, all of that. Now that they've fixed those things, you saw the student presence at UT all season. So now also playing devil's advocate, because you guys just hired Jake Spavital, and it's like he's a young 33-year-old coach, reminds me of what Oklahoma could, some potentially like a Lincoln Riley type. Wouldn't one argue if you were on Team Teis that if the football program, if we get a better product, everything else theoretically should fall into place? What's your response to that?
And that is the response from them on record. I've reached out to the Board of Regents at Texas State and frankly voiced my concerns regarding the president of the university and the athletic department. And really, I have nothing bad personally to say about Denise Trout. I think her only problem at this point is protecting Larry for whatever reason, right?
Sure.
So that's where she gets mixed up in the middle here. She seems to be speaking for him 9 times out of 10, which is also weird. I've never seen a president of a university speak for the athletic department, especially when we're talking about hiring a coach or anything like that. So when I reach out to the Board of Regents and the Board of Regents turns around and sends it to Denise, and then Denise turns around and replies to my email with Larry Teis actually on the email, it's a little eye-opening. It's like, okay, so maybe they are paying attention a little bit. The response to that email was, hey, you laid out some points here on things you would like to see improved, and I'm copying Larry on this email. So I guess there's an acknowledgement of, hey, we'll read your email. The feedback I normally get from this department is it's like, we hear you, but we really don't care what you say because we're smarter than you and we got this figured out. We're going to go get Spavital. We're going to win football games and everybody's going to forget about this. But again, our alumni base is tired of a win and then people will care mindset. We're trying to build an athletic department that has a passion for the beauty of the campus. Everybody that went to Texas State loves Texas State. There's not one person I've ever met that has went to, and I'm even Southwest Texas, that doesn't have a huge passion for their university. But when you bring up athletics, it's
right.
I support the Longhorns. The football program's not good. In SWT days, it was we're FCS. We're not even D1. Now that we're D1, our athletic administration still operates in a FCS manner. Our game day environment is terrible. Our sound system's not great. We don't have any interactive on the field between timeouts, things going on. If you go down the road to UTSA, they have a much better game day environment than us. And if I'm a player coming in on a visit to watch a game, and number one, I see an empty stadium, and then I see a lackluster, game day, layout. Tailgating is a joke because of controlled areas where they do it.
Product itself is poor. Everything.
It's all on Larry Teis to fix these things, and it's fixable, but he has to just open his ears and actually act. He has a mindset that says, I'm smarter than you, and I hear you, but I don't care.
That's frustrating. But that's also why I have you on this channel, because I'm not a Texas State fan or anything, but I care about you, and I see a lot of my friends and whatnot just so frustrated with this situation, and just wanted to give you guys a platform to just, air these things out and voice these things, because we've been down a similar path at a different level in Texas. Steve Patterson, Charlie Strong, things were being led astray, and we're not all the way back, but we're in a much better place. Yep. And look, Chris Del Conte, we watched him take TCU, Mountain West, into the Big 12, and not just solid in the football program. Right. You look at their baseball program. You look at what they've done getting Jamie Dixon and the basketball program. He's made some very amazing hires.
Absolutely.
In terms of, and then on top of that, he's a guy that just understands outreach.
Right.
Being a presence, being an ambassador of the program, being in local events.
Just acting like you care. Just
acting like you care. When he was at TCU, you couldn't tell people in Fort Worth saw him. Mm-hmm. Here in Austin, every day I'm seeing fans and people taking pictures with him. Mm-hmm. It's just the little things. Does that sound like a whole bunch? Is that budget or billboards or anything like that?
It's politics.
It's politics.
And he's not a good politician.
And until we get to that point with Texas State, where that is, you're not in 2018 as a program. Right. Like, forget about FCS or FBS. I guarantee you there's FCS programs that are doing those basic things.
Yep.
So it's just like the level and I hate to go to incompetence, but that's what it sounds like to me.
Yep.
You know, so let's get to the head coaching hire, because this is what's going to kind of muck up the waters here, right? Is you like the hire?
I like the hire. So you got Coach Spavital, Jake Spavital, offensive coordinator of West Virginia currently. Was the offensive
he will coach
quarterback coach
yeah.
he will coach in the bowl game. He was the quarterback coach for A&M for a long time. He's done little stints here and there with various schools, all offensive minded. He brings along Bob Stitt as the OC for Texas State. He is currently in a offensive consulting kind of role for Oklahoma State, working with Gundy. He also was a FCS head coach at Montana, where they're known for upsetting North Dakota State.
Sure.
Heavy underdogs there. So, very great offensive minds, with your head coach and your OC. And then he brings along his brother, Zach Spavital. Excuse me, I always want to say Spavital, who is Texas Tech's linebackers coach and co-defensive coordinator. So, jury's out on the defensive coordinator.
Sure.
I mean, he had 1 year at Tech. He was the co-defensive coordinator. They were a ball takeaway defense, which is exciting because we have a great defense right now. I'll say maybe not great, but very good defense right now. They've put up some stats nationally year over year. And they're going to be juniors, seniors, that kind of thing. So they're going to be young. They're going to be hungry. And they're sound, right? So the right scheme put in place there is going to really make a huge difference for them.
He's in the scheme too. It's like there's been questions about Spavital, like how much responsibility did he have versus Dan Holgerson. But I like the fact about how young he is and coming from that coaching tree up through Mike Gundy. You see even Stitt coming from Oklahoma State and all those Big 12 offenses. They're very Texas friendly in terms of recruiting high school players.
Yep.
And honestly, it's going to come down to his evaluations. One of the things you look at with the Oklahoma States of the world, the West Virginias, are they getting a bunch of 4- and 5-star players? No.
Right.
They make excellent evaluations in terms of who can play in this scheme, and most of these kids are coming out of Texas high school football programs.
Right.
So that is something to where I could see Texas State having a big jump where you get like, oh, we won 7 games or 8 games just by having this exciting. I think it will put a better product out on the field.
No doubt.
Now, the product is only one component.
Sure.
And I think it sounds like there's 2 factions amongst you guys. And correct me if I'm wrong. There's people that say, hey, that agree with Teis. We get the football together. Everything else falls into place. And there's people that are saying, hey, that's only one element. I love this school. We should be better. We are a big school.
Yep.
Why can't we be the next TCU?
Yep.
Why TCU is what, 9,000 enrollment? But granted, it's a private school, a little bit different situation.
You're one coach and one good recruit away from really establishing a big program. I mean, there's been plenty of those examples, right? Boise State, Baylor,
even UCF now.
UCF,
got
right.
Houston.
Houston is probably the easiest to compare us to, just because it's recent. They tend to recruit from the same base we have. I mean, even UTSA down the road has technically done better than us. They beat us 2 times
Sending
now
guys to the league.
Yeah, they recruit the same kids we do. It's kind of 50-50 on recruiting classes. They tend to be a little bit higher than us. They're the Conference USA. We're the Sun Belt. That's also 1A, 1B for worst power or G5 conference. So it's very muddied waters, right? We're like the SEC junior. Conference USA is more Texas ties, Midwest, right?
Sure.
So it's like, I would love to see a realignment there, but that's a whole nother topic for another day. Now, with Spavital, right, the West Virginia media is going, why would this guy take this job, right? They're using things as dumpster fire athletic department. Why would you come there with all of the things that are coming out against this athletic department?
And that's kind of where I want to conclude, because we're starting to see the uptick. We're doing our having our conversation today, but even guys like, Jeff Howe and a lot of the people you follow.
760 the ticket did a story.
It's slowly starting to bubble up, but it needs to be one of those things where at the minimum, and I think you would agree with me on this, there needs to be pressure on him.
Yeah,
you absolutely are not off the hook for that hire.
Right.
And by the way, we need to address that press conference.
Yes,
because that was very awkward.
It was. So there's a couple lingering items, right? If you're Spavital and you're coming into this program, you have to ask yourself, what am I worried about, right? So when Everett Withers came in, He was told, at least by sources, Kef Chardello, statesman, beat writer for us, been doing excellent work on uncovering some of these things that have happened behind the scenes. Frankly, Larry Teis and the department is very close-knit, and they keep it quiet, but the stuff is leaking out. Former players, administration, a lot of people coming out. There's been injury mismanagement within the team, including Everett Withers' son. They've diagnosed injuries incorrectly for whatever reason. Players are coming out, parents are coming out and saying their kids were, because of the injury mismanagement, are no longer able to play football, and it kind of ruined their career in a sense. And more of those stories are coming out. So something we could obviously follow up on. There's been budget mismanagement within the athletic department where they were delinquent on their Powerade bill. Coaches were having to pay.
How does that happen?
I mean,
at a school like this.
So we have the second largest operating budget for the athletic department in the Sun Belt, okay? And we have the highest paid athletic director in the conference. And yet we can't pay our Powerade bill. We also there has been rumors.
That's just people not doing their job. I don't care if it's D3, D2, these things are just the cost of doing business, right?
Yeah.
So.
And you can brush that off and say, hey, maybe there's other programs having these same issues, and maybe we're just bringing it to the light, and maybe this is normal. I don't know. But to me, when you bring in, a shade under $2 million a year from a donation standpoint, and then on top of it, 60% of the rest of the athletic budget comes from student fees, and your students are footing that bill in tuition, you think that at the very least they would spend our money, right? And if we're getting a good coach, they're only as good as the athletic department behind them. And if you're not branding them and you're not putting the messaging out in terms of supporting the football team or really all the sports for that matter, and then on top of that, you're dodging the media and you're not holding yourself accountable as the lead of this athletic department.
Absolutely.
How can you not set an example of, look, I'm going to be accountable, and then this will flow downhill.
I'm going to give Jake everything he needs.
Right. And he can say that. But what I've seen over 15 years is a lot of talk and not a lot of proof and action behind it.
Sure.
And frankly, the last thing I'll say about just the dirt that has come out recently with Kef is, one of the things that everyone's laughing at from a national media standpoint, Everett Withers was hired, and for whatever reason, he was told, hey, we're gonna take care of your buyout with James Madison University. Mm-hmm. And come to find out, it was a verbal agreement, and Texas State never took care of it. I mean, they can't pay their Powerade bill. How do we expect them to pay a $350,000 buyout, right? Let's get real. But Everett Withers didn't know that. So, long story short, he paid it out of his own pocket after he negotiated it down to $250,000. So you have coaches coming in paying their own buyout. You got injury mismanagement within the
injury mismanagement because of lack of investment in terms of full-time training staff.
Exactly. So they're running a bare bones program, a cheap program at that. But then year over year, from a performance standpoint, Denise Trouth is giving Larry Teis raises, making him the highest paid AD in the Sun Belt, operating the second highest athletic budget. But we can't pay our Powerade bill. We can't. And there's other stories saying that there's been away games where the players, there wasn't enough food to feed the players before a game.
I've heard
and coaches are paying that out of
Yeah,
pocket.
I've heard coaches having to go and ask donors. Right.
For recruiting
you
dollars.
You were the one that told me about that, for recruiting dollars.
Yeah, they've been, the first year Everett was in, he was asked, or he ran out of money a month before the recruiting trip was over. And we basically had to scramble to get funds from donors to foot the last month of that bill. And frankly, that's incredibly crazy because we're just talking about gas money.
I will say this, and I appreciate you coming on to vent about these things. It can turn around. Mm-hmm. Some of this did sound like doom and gloom, but it's real and it needs to be addressed. And I appreciate how passionate you are about your school and your program. You love them and you demand better.
I do.
Right. And so, but it can get better.
Yep.
We see my cousin plays linebacker at UAB, and you saw what happened to them. They hit beyond rock bottom.
They are definitely the comparison right now.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, right? Yep. I know it's not apples to apples, but in a lot of ways, there are many comparisons you can draw from that. But look how quickly they bounced back because the community galvanized the community that came around UAB. Not even people that were Alabama Crimson Tide fans. Auburn fan in that Alabama, they're like, you guys need to have football.
Yep.
And you guys need to be, because not everybody can go to UT, not everybody can go to Texas A&M.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that we can't go out and be one of the best teams year in, year out in the Sun Belt.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that we can't, over 20 years, have a plan
Yep.
to become, wherever the conferences look like.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
So a lot of two-star players that make it to the league.
Absolutely,
JJ
man.
Watt.
And that, again,
one,
that's why I'm excited for the head coach. If he can evaluate players properly,
Yep.
then you guys, in my opinion, are a sleeping giant. Jim, I really appreciate you coming on today, man. It was a fun conversation. Hopefully you feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
Just getting some of that. It's important, guys. You gotta have a friend or somebody in your life that you can just vent to about these things. So look, I'd love to have you back on. He's a big Spurs fan, so we definitely can wrap it up about the Spurs with the best of them. But let's have, at some point a follow-up to this conversation, right? Because again, and those of you who are Texas State alum, some of you have kids that are currently at Texas State, please chime in. Please share this video, comment. We're trying to spread the word. We want this program. I'm doing my part just as a local friend and fan of Jim, and just trying to spread it. Anything else, man?
Cool. Just eat them up, and hopefully we can see brighter days in the future.
Absolutely.
So appreciate the time.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. All right.